What's your favorite scary movie?
Be afraid. Be very afraid.
I see dead people. You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Here's Johnny.
The power of Christ compels you! The power of Christ compels you!
Whatever you do, don't fall asleep.
Welcome to Talking Horror with Jamie and Nikisha.
Hi, I'm Jamie.
And I'm Nikisha, and this is Talking Horror with Jamie.
And Nikisha.
Where we share our love for spooky things and talk horror through the lens of human behavior. Welcome, everyone.
Welcome.
Oh, today is a lovely day. A day when I am at my most happiest, according to our recent TikTok video. And that is because we are talking about the 2017 American horror film, Get Out.
Rose.
I don't know where they are.
Rose? Rose! Rose, give me those keys! Rose, give me those keys. Rose, now! Now, the keys! Oh, be careful, bro.
What the fuck?
I didn't do anything.
What the fuck is going on?
Where are those keys, Rose?
You know I can't give you the keys, right, babe?
So good. Okay, so this movie was directed, written, and co-produced by one Jordan Peele in his directorial debut. And this movie stars Daniel Kaluuya, Allison Williams, Bradley Whitford, Caleb Landry Jones, Stephen Root, and Catherine Keener. All great, phenomenal actors and actresses, which we will be discussing throughout this podcast, because if you haven't already noticed, this movie is one of my top faves. So obviously there's going to be heavy spoilers. We are going to be talking everything Get Out and Jordan Peele, maybe referencing some of his other works in the midst of talking about this as we get ready for Nope to come out. And Jamie, are there any trigger warnings?
Surely. I don't know why I said that. I'm so sorry. I'm just already very excited to talk about this movie. Yes, there is a lot of violent imagery in this film. There's also a lot of racism in this film, all kinds, all across the spectrum, explicit, implicit. We're going to talk all about it. There is also some like gore surgery scenes. So if seeing, brains be cut open, not for you, look away. There are some guns in this as well. And some representations of the police as well. So if any of that is upsetting, then this might not be for you, although it's just really good if you can still watch it.
If you can stomach it, it's worth the watch. So I will say that I rewatched this with our friend Aaron, and he is not a horror movie person, but he absolutely enjoyed it. So for someone who does not watch horror movies and he loved it, like, you should absolutely get into it if you have not seen this. But I do want to ask, because I know there's a lot of trailers coming out, and I know that we have this on a TikTok, but producer Brian, I would love to hear your thoughts about the Orphan First Kill trailer that came out.
Oh my God. We've watched a lot of trailers. Hello, everyone. We watched a lot of trailers recently. We watched Smile. We watched Barbarian. I watched a couple other ones, like the new Monsters trailer. But the Orphan First Kill trailer, I have to be honest, I don't remember the first Orphan movie that well, outside of the twist.
Yeah.
I don't know. I first of all, Julia Stiles always has evil children. Poor woman. But I don't know. Listen, I'll tell you what. I'm into it because it's streaming on Paramount Plus. That actually makes me more interested in seeing it, because I don't have to I love going to the movie theater, of course, but knowing that movie is coming into my home, I can watch it. The Orphan is not coming into my home, but the movie is coming into my home.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Good thing you clarified. Yeah. Thank you.
Yes. I mean, it looks insane. It looks wild. We just recently watched something where the kid wasn't what they seemed? Was it here? Was it just like casually on my own?
It might have been. It might have been casually.
Didn't we watch something where like the kid wasn't what he seemed? Maybe it was in a TV show. I don't know. Anyway, that was a tangent that didn't need to happen. I'm just excited we have a date for this. It looks well made. It's going to be silly, but like it looks very well made. I don't know, like we know the twist, so I'm wondering how the appeal of the first one is a twist, right? Like in my opinion, like that's what we remember from it. It's a fine thriller horror movie, but the twist is great. It's very Don't Look Now. If you know that movie from the 70s, great horror movie if you've never seen it, like truly great horror movie. But this one, like, is there going to be a twist? Is it just like, is the fact that we know it's happening and they don't know it's happening? Is that something like I'm wondering if there is an additional twist that they're going to do that kind of makes the movie doubly silly because like, have you, Nikisha, I don't remember. Have you seen The Boy and Brahms 2, The Boy?
I saw the first Boy. I have not seen Return of the Brahms, but I saw the first one.
The first Boy is great.
Yeah.
It's a great time.
Okay.
The second one is fucking nuts. But they add it because you know the twist from the first one, so the second one doesn't have that twist. They add a whole nother level to it that undercuts the first movie. I'm hoping that this does not do the same thing. I don't want to spoil anything for those who haven't, you know, gotten down with The Boy.
Tangled with The Boy.
Yeah, haven't, you know, Boyd. For those of you who have avoided it. But but I also watched you know it's a great movie that I just watched? Blood Red Sky.
Oh, I haven't watched that.
On Netflix. I watched it on my train ride to, and I was on a train from for BroadwayCon. I watched Blood Red Sky. It's on Netflix. It's like this German American movie. I don't really know much about it other than it looked good. It's spectacular. I wish I didn't know what it was about because I think I would have been more surprised by it, even though I knew what the it was about. Man, it was really good. I would highly suggest it. I'll do a TikTok on it for more detail, but yeah, I dug it. Definitely go see Blood Red Sky. That's my suggestion before we get into Get Out.
Okay, fantastical. Well, speaking of, we do need to have a plot summary of this wonderful movie.
What's the plot?
I'm going to suggest Jamie.
Why me? What did I do?
I don't know. Got married. Congratulations.
Sure. Sure. Yep. That
That's
tracks.
it. Yes. So Brian is going to give
Right, I will do
me
my best.
All right.
2 minutes.
You have
on the
2
clock.
minutes to get it out.
I'll do my best.
Ready, set, get it out.
Okay, so Chris and his girlfriend, Rose, are going to meet Rose's family for the first time. Chris is black, Rose is white. Chris, broaches the topic of like, does your family know that I'm black? And she kind of dismisses it. They get there, a lot of really uncomfortable comments about black people. And Chris also notices that like all the groundskeepers and housekeepers and people working at the family's home are also black. Chris is a smoker. One night he's walking around and Rose's mom, who is a hypnotherapist, offers to hypnotize him to get him to stop smoking. Then all this uncomfortable stuff about his childhood comes up. Then he wakes up in bed and he's not sure if it really happened, but he doesn't want to smoke. Then a whole bunch of awkward, weird old white people come to this family's house for a weird annual party, seemingly, and like touch Chris and talk about him. And it's like really uncomfortable. And everyone's acting weird. And then there's one other black guy that's there that's also acting extra weird. Chris tries to take a photo of him. The flash goes off and the other guy, like, they say has a seizure, but that's not really what it seems like is happening. Meanwhile, all this time, Chris has been phone calling, I guess. His best friend,
30
Rod.
seconds.
who works at the TSA. Chris goes missing. It turns out that they are kidnapping people, specifically Black people, because they're cool, and brainwashing them and switching brains. And Rod from the TSA saves him, and everybody else gets murdered.
Yes.
I got really nervous when you said 30 seconds.
There's still like 15 seconds left. Anything else you want to add? 10?
No, I don't think so. It's really good. Everyone should see this.
Okay, great.
And that's the plot.
Fantastic. I
got so anxious.
That's your time.
Yes.
Excellent.
Like, Jamie,
Excellent.
you had 30 seconds and you talked in 10 seconds. You still have more time.
I didn't know.
That was a crazy one. That was amazing because, like, again, we spend like 15 to 20 seconds on the first scene, and then we like rush through the middle. We talk about the end, and then we have time left. I love it.
Oh,
Yes.
so sorry.
No, that was great.
No, it was
this
awesome.
is all great things. Yes, especially the phone calling. So we're going to be forever
Phone calling.
phone calling people.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing. So let's talk about everyone's individual relationships with this movie. Have you seen it before? Where did you go see it? Did you see it in theaters? Brian, do you want to start?
Sure. I did not see this in theaters. I saw this at home for the first time, and this was only my second time watching it. I love this movie. I think this is one of the greats. I also think what's amazing about this movie is, like, when you think of the great horror movies like of our time, they all have sequels. They all have been, turned into these chains.
Yeah.
Capitalism has got the best of the Halloweens and the Nightmare on Elm Streets and the Exorcists and the Poltergeists and all of those. It's very rare that we get an all-time great that stays a single film. And this is it. I mean, even Psycho has sequels. All of that kind of stuff. Jaws, they all have sequels. This one does not. I could see potentially this getting a sequel at some point. I could see this getting a prequel at some point, which makes less sense because I don't want the movie to be focused around the Armitage family. However, that's my relationship with it. I think this is one of the all-time greats. When's the last time you saw a horror movie win an Academy Award for screenplay? Like, this is... Jordan Peele was made to do this, especially if you if you watch the Key and Peele show clips and like some of those. I know they're comedies, but like that Urkel, we think we talked about this. The Urkel skit, like, it's just so well edited from a horror perspective, and he's so clever about what he does. I mean, this is just an all-time great. It's a tight script. It's well acted. It's everything about this movie is spectacular. And I love horror is at its best when it is using real life themes and analogies, whether it's Invasion of the Body Snatchers because of the Cold War, whether it is Arrival because, I mean, that's more sci-fi, but it's Arrival because of like communication with each other, or this with just the concept of racism. And I mean, deeper than that, I would even say like this is like there's some niche racism in this in terms of like, believing that like Black bodies are superior in some ways. And like all of that, we'll talk about all of that. But to me, this is an all-time great. And I know I'm rambling, but this held up even better than the first time, probably because of all of the shitty world stuff that we're going through, and like and how things have basically gotten worse for minorities in some ways. This movie holds up times 10. I actually think it's more effective now than it was back when it came out for me.
That's a great point that I want to piggyback off of. But I also just want to say, when you mentioned awards, I just want to throw this out there because we covered this and it did not get nominated for any Emmys, and that is Midnight Mass. And I think that is a travesty because of how brilliant that show was. And the fact that there were no awards for it in any capacity for the Emmys is just quite.
Like,
anyway, when you mentioned the Academy Awards, it was.
How does Hamish Linklater not get a nomination? Even just him, I don't know.
It's wild.
Beyond me. Anyway,
but that speaks to this movie, and for it to break out in a way that it can get through the mess of award seasons and really shine through. It's just a testament to how great this was made. I absolutely saw this movie in theaters multiple times. I was living in New York, or I just moved to New York when this came out. And I just remember going to the Magic Johnson Theater in Harlem.
You saw this at the Magic Johnson? Oh my God, what an experience that must have been.
It was a phenomenal experience. The way that everyone was yelling at the screen when the police lights came up at the end, because we all knew that they were not there to help him and he was screwed. Just the collective energy in the room heightened everything about that movie.
Sure.
It was also filmed in my hometown, guys, Mobile, Alabama. Wow.
Wait, it was filmed in Alabama?
Wait, really?
Yes, it was filmed in Mobile. Parts were filmed in Mobile, Alabama and Fairhope, Alabama.
Oh, wow.
Which is really crazy because Mobile is becoming a place where movies are being filmed because it's hella cheap. But anyway, it was filmed there, which also just kind of added to my experience with it. So yeah, saw it multiple times in the theater, all of the little get out challenges of running and then turning the corner really fast. Like the yard man.
Yeah.
That was the thing. I was in it for everything. And so, Brian, the point that you made about it being more important watching it in this time, I've seen this movie so much that I didn't even think about the fact that it hits harder in the time period that we're in. Just because I think I've oversaturated myself with the movie. And so I'm just living in how great I think that it is. And plus, all of the things that happen are things that have happened in the Black experience since day one. So, things are more in the forefront of media now. And so it is kind of like, oh my God, yeah, this is even more important to watch now. But it also is something that has been happening since the dawn of time. So it's, it's just, it's a part of, microaggressions are a part of me because that is what I have experienced my whole life. So it's nothing new, But yeah, it's a great movie. 10 out of 10 for me as well. It's top tier. Jordan Peele, coming out the gate. And I watched this with Aaron again today, and we were talking about the alternate ending. Have y'all seen the alternate ending to this movie?
No, I have not. I didn't know there was one.
Okay.
Yes.
I think I have, but I can't remember. Isn't Rose in it?
The last
or did I make that up?
I mean, yes. It starts off when she got shot and he was going to come and, strangle her. But in the actual movie, he stops and you see the police lights.
Yeah.
So it starts off there, but he actually does strangle her to death. And the police lights come out, but it's the actual police. And he goes to jail. And then it turns to him being in jail, talking to his friend Rod, the Laurel character, on the phone, through the plexiglass. And it has been 6 months. And Chris is saying, hey, Rod, it's been 6 months. You're fighting a dead fight. I'm at peace. I know that I did my part to end this. Just let me stay here in jail. And then it ends. And there's commentary with Jordan Peele. He's talking over this scene and says that this was his first ending. This is what he wanted. And he wrote this in, of course, the Obama era and stuff. And I guess when he tested it and other people were saying this is so on the line of things, you can't have it end this way. You need to change it to where we need a hero in this. And for Jordan Peele, he thought that, Chris kind of handling his trauma by saying, look, I saved other future people, so now I'm at peace and my trauma is at peace. Jordan was thinking that is enough, but it doesn't read that way. It reads Like, this man just was trying to save his own life, and because he is a black man who killed white people, he is in jail. Like, nothing else. There's no underlining in that. That's what it is, and that's how people are going to receive it. And so he said, okay, we'll change it and make it be Rod come and get him, which I think is really great, because I would have flipped tables if that was the ending
Sure.
to that movie.
I understand that ending, and I think it's symbolically really interesting. However, I there's like you said, even and I want to get into the difference between you watching this movie and me watching this movie, because I'm sure it's the experience is very different. But I feel like that and that last scene where you see the lights and then you're just like, oh no, like that moment is more effective to me than anything that you just described, if that makes sense. But I get the other ending, and I kind of like the other, and not better, but I like either ending. I think they both are effective in different ways, for sure.
Yes, but I think it's enough to have that feeling, like I said, in the theater when we're all seeing the police lights and thinking, oh no. I think that's enough of the feeling that we need.
Totally.
And then, have the ending.
It's similar to the Ready or Not ending, where you get both endings. You get the like, oh shit, this isn't real. Oh, spoiler alerts for Ready or Not. Shit, this isn't real. And you get, oh shit, this is real. So you get both experiences through those characters. I feel like through him in that moment, through Chris, you get both of those experiences. You get the, oh no, I'm caught. And your brain takes you down the ending that's not there. Like, you automatically it's like when you're having fake conversations with yourself, like because you can't think inside your head. No, because of that, like but then you get the happy ending, also like Ready or Not, where you're like, how are they gonna get away with this? Like, she's just sitting there smoking a cigarette, like, and her whole family is dead. Like, he's just like, his DNA and like his shit is he dropped his bag in the living room, like but like we'll get into that. Well, let's see what Jamie thinks. We just like keep going.
Go ahead.
No,
Jamie.
you're fine. You covered a lot of my thoughts, but I'm pretty sure I have such a terrible memory. I'm pretty sure I did see this in theaters for the first time. And I can't remember if I've seen it more than once, to be totally honest. And if I did, I like would have seen it probably pretty soon after I saw it for the first time. Cause I like remember what happened in the movie, but like the effectiveness of the scenes, like, man, they still like hit you the same, and talking about how it holds up, like it just it just stirs up so many emotions, and it's so palpable that like it's nuts that this movie came out in 2017 and feels like it could have come out yesterday. It's just so good. It's also, this movie is so, I mean, I know we're slowly transitioning into likes and gripes.
Yes.
And now our likes and gripes.
But this movie is so well cast. Everybody in this movie is so good. I have nothing bad to say about anybody and just how they're playing it. Especially like, man, Allison Williams is like disgusting and awful. And like the scenes of her in the end are like, I can't handle her on the phone with Rod. It makes me so uncomfortable. Like the dissonance between her completely vacant expression and the emotion in her voice is like, it makes me ill. Like, it actually makes me feel sick. Like, shout out to all of you actors who like can pull that off, because I don't know how you express emotion without fully expressing an emotion. And like, just the way that she shows that that disconnect, it's so grossly unsettling. And yeah, but like, man, that character's fucked up.
Gosh. I mean, I'm definitely going to ask you millions of questions about actually that specific scene too. But since we're already transitioning Let's start off with our likes and gripes. And Jamie, why don't you just continue on? Give us some more things that you liked or did not like about this movie.
Yeah, I mean, I love this movie. I on like the rewatch is so interesting because like, you know, when you first see this movie, like I didn't know the twist. Like obviously I knew something
Is
was
wrong
awry.
here. Yes.
Yeah, but you don't I didn't fully understand it until having seen this movie and I know what the twist is, and it was just really interesting to like, again, you can never take back what you now know. So watching Chris's interactions with the quote Black staff who are actually the family, they are the grandparents. And also, okay, actually I do have a gripe. There is no way that Georgina, aka grandma, does not know like how to communicate. The conversation that they have about the phone and like the phone plug, I was like, what? You don't know what the word snitch is? You like the only word you know is tattletale? I don't buy it. That's just like, I was just like, I don't understand. You maybe this is a generalization for older people, but I'm like, no, you should have a better understanding of language because you've been around longer and should know more words. Why don't you know what these words are? Like there's something wrong here. So that those conversations like annoyed me because like obviously that's what's cluing you into like something is wrong here. Why are these people talking like this? Like they're not communicating like human people talk. But I think more specifically, you know, the idea of code switching, like they're not even talking the way that like Black people would talk to each other. And like, that's what's like the first kind of like what's going on. But I will also say that like, I don't think that human people talk this way. And like that like really set me off more than the first time when I was just like, what the hell is going on here? So yeah, that one conversation, I was like, there's just no way she doesn't know what those words mean. Come on.
I agree.
But yeah, I mean, oh God, everyone in this movie is just so good. I don't even know what else to say. I'm just like, look, I'm like word vomiting, but the unsettling scenes that really stand out are also like the nighttime running scene. Nobody needs to train at night. Like why is that the time that you were doing this? Very strange. This movie also makes me never want to be trained in hypnotherapy. It like makes me more afraid of it. And what else can I say? Yeah, it's so good at like making you uncomfortable in so many different ways. But I think the beginning of this movie, I had a much greater appreciation for having already seen it because you like see more of the symbolism and like the connection between the car accident in the beginning with the deer and, you know, the connection to Chris and like why he's particularly disturbed by it. I didn't even remember that from like my first watch. And so it just held so much more meaning. And like, I also kept thinking about it more and more, while we were watching it. So but
that through line of the deer too, because then you get to the dad having a whole kind of conversation of how they're a menace. There are too many of them and he just wants to wipe them all out. And then cut to like the deer on the wall, you know, and then that's what killed the dad was the deer.
Yeah.
So
that's super interesting because also the deer at the very beginning, symbolic of the mother, and what she went through and what it reminds him of, and the car being hit and all of that. I think that it also, you know, deer usually represents or symbolic of like something that's serene, something that is innocent and pure.
Unless you watch The Ring, just
right, The Ring 2.
The Ring 2.
So you have, oh man, that scene. And then so you have that, but then you also, the deer also allows for you to have that interaction with the police officer at the beginning. Then you have, yes, the father talking about how he wants to eradicate them. Essentially what he's doing is eradicating black people by making them white. So like that, you have that. And then I like that duality of him stabbing him with the deer at the end, because not only is it helping him through his trauma, but it's also like the black man holding the deer like is actually taking out the person who made those comments previously. That was, I really enjoyed that aspect of things. So
yeah. Why don't you continue on with your likes and gripes, Brian?
Oh yeah, sure. Gripe. My only gripe of this whole movie, and this is a horror movie gripe. You can't, the cup is still in the house. You don't take the things out of your ears.
Oh yeah, the cotton balls.
You don't take the cotton stuffing out of your ears. No, that stays in until you break the cup. I mean, he broke the cup and it was fine, but I'm just like, no, man, come on, get out.
It could be, that cup could be in, like you said, it could be anywhere.
That cup could be anywhere, and it's also on the video. They could just replay the video if she saw the footage of him in downstairs. Anyway, that's my only true gripe of this movie. My favorite moment in this movie by far is when Allison Williams says to Chris, or Rose says to Chris, like, you know I can't give you the keys, right? And he drops his bag, and his one acting moment of like, damn, I got played. Like it was just like, you could like read it on his face. I think what Jamie said, his casting specifically because he's wonderful, but specifically because of his eyes and how wide and saucer-like and how like bulging his eyes are, when his main character trait, aside from being black, is that he's artistic and he has an eye for things, definitely pulls through. But I'll also say what I found interesting and I liked at this time is, in this movie, you really don't know anything about Chris from the first half of this movie, maybe, other than that he's black dating a white woman. That's it. Because then we learn more about him, about his mother, and we still don't really know a lot about who he is on a day-to-day basis. And we get more of that like towards the end of this movie. And you actually get a lot of it. I would say you get the most personality from Chris. I don't mean this as a negative thing. In his voicemail message. Like, hey, this is Chris, like, if I'm not picking up, I'm busy, or like, I just don't want to talk to you, or whatever his voicemail is. Like, that's very interesting that he's this like very subtle, quiet, like person who like loves his dog. And like, there's a lot of, you learn from him that he never actually says himself. And I think the script does an excellent job of introducing you to him over the course of this. Like, he's not violent. Like, he talks specifically about how like, he's not going to fight him or wrestle him or whatever it is. Do you like MMA? Right. It's not for me. Like, all of that stuff is fat. Like, I love how we keep getting introduced to him. Some other likes, I have a full list, but I won't go through all of it right now. I think the most iconic line from this movie is, I would have voted for Obama a third term if I could have. I think that's like the quintessential, like, that's like, oh, I have a black friend. Like, that's like a quintessential one of those lines.
I don't see color.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
That's the one I hate the most. God.
Oh, there's so many things I have so many questions to pose to the group, but I'll wait till we get to our likes and gripes before we get into our next segment. 20, he's 26. They've been dating for 5 months. I think that is the best cops don't believe you scene in any horror movie.
Yes. Yes.
I think it's better than the cop trying to spell fellatio in Black Christmas.
Oh, God. Yes.
She puts the pictures back up, like kind of like her notches on her bedpost at the end. I like that the white people kept getting second chances at the end, like the brother and her, because that's just like real life, where white people just get more chances than black people in like in general. I like that the movie did that. The cops pulling up is the scariest, and then how did I not blame and also like the TSA Tingles, the TSA like
Somebody's
incredible.
lying.
Yes, I just. Also, another my last one, my other gripe I have is when he goes upstairs and everybody goes silent downstairs.
Oh, it's so uncomfortable.
There's no way that he wouldn't have noticed that all of a sudden it got quiet when I went upstairs. I just needed some sort of reaction from him. Do I believe that he would have been upstairs and just ignored it? Sure. But I do think he would have been like, what? Oh, I'm just going to keep walking. That just was that was a bit. That's my face-off rule. Have you ever? Have I talked about it here?
What? You have mentioned Face Off, and I still have not seen it.
Right. Okay.
Yes.
But what's your rule?
So Face Off is a movie that you buy into the premise. Face Off is nuts. Oh. They are switching faces, and you're like, oh my gosh, I totally believe that John Travolta and Nicolas Cage are switching faces, but they're not the same height. They're not the same build. They're not it doesn't make sense, but you buy in. And then there's a boat chase at the end. And you're like, this could never happen. It's how, what's the cognitive dissonance there that I'll believe that they switched faces, but I can't buy a boat chase. I'll believe the high concept, but I won't believe these logistics of it, which is crazy.
Yes.
The Martian is another one for me. I believe that he would get stranded on Mars, but I don't believe that he could the end. If you know the ending, move his suit through space the way he does. I'm just okay, sure. That's the only moment in this movie where I'm just there's no way he would have heard them. I'm oh, they're switching brains? Sure. But but there's no way he would have not noticed that everyone stopped talking. I don't know. That's just me. But this movie is a 10 out of 10. It's spectacular. It is very easily rewatchable. And the scariest parts of this movie are the social commentary more than the actual scares. And the scares still get me. Some of the jump scares in there are pretty good.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's interesting because I think after I watched it, of course, everyone has, here are all the theory videos and Easter eggs and things that you miss that I love watching. And the duality of the movie of it being one thing when you watch it and then when you watch it again or watch these videos uncovering things, then you get a lot more. And going back to the police scene at the very beginning, and you think it's cool that Allison Williams is kind of sticking up for her black boyfriend and saying, you don't need his license. Why? But the reason why is because if the police would have gotten his identification, then that would have been some form of kind of tracking him and where they were going.
I didn't even think about that, Nikisha. Yeah, totally.
I didn't think of that either. I did not think of that either. I'm just going to point that out. It was in a video. But it's a great moment. I'm sorry.
You take the credit. You came up with this.
That's so true. That's that's a huge part of why she didn't do that. Oh my gosh.
But that's the thing. That's throughout the whole movie. You think it's one thing, and then you're like, oh no, this was all because it was a plot for what all they were trying to do. And then there's all the things of
Brian, you dummy. Yeah. I just thought she was trying to keep proving to him that she's on his side because she's going to have to play that part a lot. And I think that was a part of it. But the tracking stuff, it makes perfect sense. Nikisha.
She doesn't want them to know what's happening.
You're watching the right YouTube videos, Nikisha.
Absolutely. I just get obsessed with one thing, and then for 3 days I'll just be watching everything about it.
Yeah, welcome to my world.
Brian, I thought you were going to say you're watching Disney Channel when you said that for some reason. That was the first thing that came to mind. Should we do the little mouse thing now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm Selena Gomez from Wizards of Waverly Place, and you're watching Disney Channel.
But to the tune of some horror or something. Actually, speaking of, that's one of the things I did love about this. The soundtrack is fantastic. Of course, the actors are fantastic. There's a great balance of comedy and horror. What were you going to say, Brian?
Oh, sorry. You brought it up. It's your fault.
Yes. Sorry.
We watch this with closed captionings because that's what we do. We're old people now, but we love it. At the beginning, when Stanfield gets taken at the very beginning, it says like 1930s song playing, and it's like it's like that Run or whatever it is, and I would 100% buy a 2-pack of the Run and Hide song from Ready or Not and that song in a 2-pack, right? And then the transition of that to the Run Rabbit kind of like contemporary song is spectacular. That whole opening, this movie is perfect. Wow. This movie apparently I saw on TikTok this week that this movie is pretty divisive, and when it comes to people thinking that it's overrated versus like a perfect movie, which I don't think is maybe I'm just living in the bubble where everyone thinks this is great, but like this is a perfect film.
No, that's racist. That's my opinion.
Right, exactly.
I mean,
like
that's
if
probably where
like
it comes from.
Yes.
Yeah.
People can't deal with certain things being presented to them.
Yeah.
So yes, this is absolutely perfect in every way. Yes, I don't want to go through. I mean, I have like a million likes about this as well.
Yeah,
but
say more likes.
All the likes, all the things.
Only good things.
But let me just say this from just the Black cultural perspective, because you get into the 90s horror, and you have the trope of the Black person being the first one to die,
Sure.
And then you get into this movie, and I just love how everything that a Black person does in this seems very kind of, for the most part, practical, but they still get caught in the things. Like at the beginning, Lakeith Stanfield, when he is on the phone, seemingly, we're guessing, with Rose and like going or walking to her house, but then he sees like a car going kind of swerving around him. And so he says, nope, I'm going to turn the other way and I'm just going to go home. And it's like, yes, of course. That's what, we would all do. It's like, we're not going to go after the noise. We're just going to go home.
That's interesting.
But he still gets caught.
Yeah. Because also like, keep going. I have 2 questions that I keep saying this, but you keep going, then I'll present the question. That just reminded me of it. So I want to like put a pin in that for a second. Yeah, keep going.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, but I think that's the whole thing all around. And then there was someone who also made the comment of he put the cotton balls in his ears and is kind of like, picking cotton is the thing that saved him. I think that's like so far out there, but I still love that concept of like
that's
Black
interesting.
people where picking cotton and the cotton is the thing that saved him.
Yeah,
but that's like going on the far meta kind of aspect of the world. But I think that Jordan Peele absolutely knows what he's doing, who his target audience is, and the practicality of these Black characters. And even Rod, he's making these assumptions, and he's wrong, but he's right. They're not sex slaves, but people are getting kidnapped. So like he's on the right track. It's just a matter of like he couldn't get the full thing together. So I don't know. I just love the concept of they're making smart enough decisions, but he's still getting wrangled up in all of the things because of what actually is happening. But yeah, Brian, ask what you want to ask.
Oh, okay. So here's my question for the group. There's that amazing scene where Allison Williams basically, when he's very uncomfortable at the auction, that he doesn't know is an auction just yet, and he walks away and they're talking by the water, and basically he's like, I need to get out. Like, I need to leave here. I'm very uncomfortable. And she essentially agrees, but stalls to keep him there for a significant amount of time. My question to you all is, if you went to a significant other's house and you had that experience where you felt very uncomfortable because of something that you cannot control, something that you are born with, whether it is sexuality or whether it is the color of your skin or whatever it is, you love this person. Like, you love the Allison Williams of your life in that moment. You do. You don't know you're being played. You in this scenario, you may not being played, but you get to that family. It's just like, there's something off about it and you don't feel comfortable. Does that end the relationship for you?
I think that's hard because it is nuanced. Like you said, don't know you're getting played, but you could not be getting played, and your significant other could really
Let's
be,
assume that this is not a horror situation where like she's not like let's assume that there's no like gaslighting, that like you're actually in love, like there are feelings there, but also you know that her family's like weirdly racist or like homophobic or whatever. You choose your own guidelines and thresholds, but that's I guess that's what I'm asking, because that's what all I thought during that. Like, does that mean if he left, and like, does that mean their relationship is over? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, and I guess it just depends on how you view your family's kind of place in your life. Because if you're with a person and you can say, hey, we don't have to be visiting my family all the time because I know that what they say hurts you, that's a conversation that could be had. But if someone is very family oriented and they want their family to be a part of their lives, and then I think it is grounds to say, okay, no, I'm out, because I don't want to be I don't want to be uncomfortable around someone who could be potentially linked to me as my, in-laws or whatever. So I guess it's just, I would say I would have the conversation with my significant other of how much involvement, we would have with their family. And if they choose their family, which they absolutely can, that's on them, that's their family, then I would say, okay, I'm out.
Sure. Jamie?
Yeah, I think I agree. Just like, there's like context to how, like, what role does this person's family play in their life? And if, maybe it's like a non-existent one, then that doesn't necessarily like impact the relationship. But if they're very close with their family and like this is the behavior that they're allowing to continue, I would like very much question what's going on with that person to enable this behavior if they're not like challenging it. And like she is challenging it, but like I don't know. I mean, even in her presentation where like obviously we know that she's gaslighting him, it still can feel kind of like two-faced in a way, because she's like saying some things, but like I don't know, I feel like she could take it farther if she like genuinely cared and like didn't want her partner to feel uncomfortable.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially with when he tries to present her with things of saying, okay, this made me feel uncomfortable or whatever, and then she'll gaslight him, she'll make a joke about it or say, whatever, and he'll say, okay, just forget it, we don't have to talk about it. But
yeah, she like minimized so many of his concerns with jokes to just like avoid his line of questioning, and it was unfortunately very effective because he like would shut down in those conversations.
Yeah.
So my second question for the group is, when you're watching a movie like this, I think to myself, like, why are we telling this story? She's had many men who she's brought to that house, and women, and everything went according to the Armitage's plans. Why are we telling this story? And to me, the reason we're telling this story is because of what's his name in the movie? I forget his character's name. Stanfield's name.
Lakeith Stanfield? Logan?
No, Lakeith Stanfield's like name. I forget the character's name in the movie.
It's Logan.
Logan. Okay. So the reason that this is different is because they recognize Logan, and he texts Rod. That's the difference here. Because if he didn't recognize Logan, then Rod wouldn't be turned on to it. He wouldn't be questioning it as much. He just thought it was pure racism as opposed to like something else is wacky going on here. And so to me, that's the reason this is different. And that creates the chain of events that allows for him to like escape, essentially get out. So that leads to Rod. Rod learns of this. He goes to the police and all of that. Jamie and I talked about this during the movie. Would you have gone after to look for your friend?
I would, especially if I had the previous conversations that they had of things that were going on, and Chris explaining how he kind of felt uncomfortable, especially when he talks about the grandmother and grandfather and saying, like Jamie was saying, how they talked, and even Lakeith Stanfield's character and how he quote unquote missed the movement. All the Black people here have missed the movement because they're, it's not even, like Jamie said, it's not even code switching. It's just something that's completely out of box to where you do have to question, like, humans are not speaking in this way. What is actually happening here?
Sure.
So if I did not hear from them and I kept calling and it kept going to voicemail, then I would absolutely try to see what's going on, call somebody who was close in the area, or try to figure out where. Yes, I would absolutely. Mostly, again, just based on the fact that they had those conversations before. And it is unfortunately, it is an uncomfortable situation if you are a Black person in the midst of a lot of white people. And even Georgina makes a comment, or no, when Chris makes a comment of, sometimes I just get uncomfortable when I'm around a lot of white people, and that's what triggers Georgina's actual person kind of trying to come through, and then the whole crying scene with her happens. That's something that you have to keep in the back of your mind and think about. Like, that is an uncomfortable situation. You don't know what could happen. And so with that alone, there's already kind of like a red flag of, let me stay on the alert of this,
Sure.
But yeah.
Jamie?
Would I go after my friend? Great question. I mean, I don't know. I'm a big baby and I am not very strong or resourceful. So I don't really know what I myself could do to save my friend, which feels like a shitty thing to say, but I am also a realist. So I just don't know how effective I would be. If I were to go, I would tell many people. I probably wouldn't go by myself.
Sure.
I would try to bring, I'd probably make Brian drive me there.
Yes.
And I would share my location often with
That's
others.
The thing. Share location. Send addresses, please.
And I would probably go if this was the case. I feel like this was very much like in some ways what we watched, Fresh, where like everybody went looking for her. In some ways. Also, like, what do you do with Rod? Like, what do they do with Rod? Because, like, Rod's really the only loose end. I wonder what the family does with Rod, because he's still with... Anyway. That being said, we're already like an hour into this because getting out is incredible. So I will hold my other questions and stuff for later, because we gotta talk about the other stuff.
We gotta talk about the brains. Which is absolutely fitting, because so many brains just out and about airing themselves out.
Literally,
in this house.
You see the brains.
You see the brains. Also, it was funny because you know how logical Aaron is, and so he was trying to like figure out exactly how this could actually be possible to do. It's like, what's part of you can't take all of your brain out.
Wherever you need this part of your brain, you just take it out and you just shove it into this other part of the brain. And I don't understand the science behind this.
The brain stuff is scary, but the concept of not being in control of everything, but kind of just watching your life go by, that sunken place visual is that claustrophobic, like sunken place helplessness feeling is terrifying. And what is also terrifying is that you're usually alone in Nikisha, and there's a dog walking around behind you, and it made me very scared for a minute. Like this creature comes out of the darkness behind you. If you're listening to this on the podcast, this is not a helpful visual because there's no visuals. But yeah, that just really scared me. That like sunken place thing and. Yeah. Anyway, go. Sorry, I just love this movie. I can't stop. Can't stop, won't stop.
Can't stop, won't stop. So there's so many things that we can discuss, but of course, I'm going to ask Jamie something that is way outside of her actual practice. And
Love
that
it. Let's
is
do it.
like I always do. And that is hypnotherapy. And I think the last time we discussed this was with that,
Hypnotic.
yes, thank you. Thank you.
Oh man,
And
remember that?
Mhm.
that
I do.
was
I was thinking about
wild.
it while we were watching this and was like, this is so much better.
Well, yes, please tell me, about how this was better
Ooh,
than this.
better, but also bad. It was,
Yes.
I mean, this movie is so much better, but the everything was bad, just like all of these all of these psychiatrists are so bad and
Yes.
using good helpful tools for bad things. Anyway, what is hypnotherapy? It is it's using hypnosis in therapy to sometimes relax a client or put them into a hypnotic state so that they can explore painful or repressed memories that sometimes aren't always top of mind. We talk a lot about trauma in the brain here,
Yes.
and it can do really weird things to our brains, to our memories specifically. So sometimes we might forget some details and other things from particularly painful and traumatic memories that or experiences that we've been through. And so, using hypnosis as a tool to help guide a client through revisiting some of those experiences in like a safer environment. And I think they even explain that it's a state of heightened suggestibility, which I think in a horror movie where therapists and psychiatrists are the bad guys, that is scary and unsettling.
Yes.
Like in a, hopefully not unethical bad therapist's office, it's like an idea of like being more open to visiting those things that like are under the surface, not always accessible in our conscious mind, in order to like seek out change, whether it's like again, like using smoking as an example, like if there's any unhelpful or unwanted behaviors or things that are bothering you, how do you tap into like some of those unconscious or subconscious experiences to support and guide somebody in navigating that, but also can work for other addictions, sleep disorders, anxiety, depression, post-traumatic stress disorder, grief. So different kinds of issues that can potentially be helped with hypnotherapy when done by a not malicious psychiatrist.
So do you think, of course, in that scene where Chris is being hypnotized by the mom, he makes a joke of, "Oh, you're going to wave a clock, in my face." And that's what we kind of have seen in media of what happens when you're being hypnotized, in magic shows or whatever the case. So, what does she have to use something like? Does something have to be used like a watch, or she uses a cup in order to hypnotize someone? I know this is like out of the box random question, but
well, I think this is my understanding, and I could totally be wrong. So I'm open to being told that I'm wrong. I think there's some kind of cue. In her case, it's not just a cup, but it's a sound cue. In other situations, I think a metronome can be used as a similar sound cue. In hypnotic, it was a light cue. So I think there needs to be some kind of something like that, like a sound or a visual cue in order to like induce this altered state.
Okay. Now that makes sense. And then with like the hypnotic, and he would say like trigger words, and that would bring about certain things. So yeah, sounds or light stuff. And speaking of lights, so when someone is in the sunken place, and as we see through Lakeith Stanfield's character, when he has a flash in his eyes, he kind of comes out of that space. So with the flashing lights, like, is that like epilepsy, like things with flashing, or what is it with flashing lights that causes kind of, or that can cause kind of brain issues?
I mean, in that particular situation, I think that Chris is right, and that Lakeith Stanfield's character didn't actually have a seizure.
Yes.
I think they were just saying that because I think I don't really know what exactly happened, but like that there's something about that light that broke the state, that broke like him in the sunken place, like you said. And so it's like his, like, then there's these two identities that are like actively fighting for consciousness. And like, I'm sure that that's kind of like what was happening. But yeah, so that's like my only understanding of what happened in that scene.
Absolutely. But okay, speaking of like consciousness fighting, because then that just makes me think about like split personality disorders and things of that nature. Is that different from like dual consciousness fighting against each other? Because if you have someone who has like multiple personality disorder, is that like different consciousness like fighting to come through, or is that something completely different?
I think, I mean, I would say that that's different because that's more of like a trauma, like a trauma response, a response to like an extremely traumatic event, and like an extreme form of dissociation, like dissociative identity disorder, where like there's another like alter that is coming out as a way to like dissociate the primary entity from like facing whatever that trauma is. So I feel like it's a little bit different, but I mean, what this makes me think of more is like kind of body snatcher or like mad scientist-y kind of vibes. And like, I mean, I remember it makes me think of being a kid watching cartoons where like brains are being swapped out, kind of like a la Frankenstein. Like that, those are like the vibes that I'm getting from this. So it's like, you know, when you're I mean, I don't think the science tracks, but like Brian was saying before, when you like suspend any disbelief, like the idea that like when you're mixing and matching pieces of brains and then putting them in someone else's body, like how is all of that? There's going to be some kind of conflict there. And like, how does one, you know, like consciousness win out over another one? And like, how do you keep somebody in the sunken place? How do you keep that, you know, that like, how do you induce that suggestibility when somebody doesn't want you to? And, like maintain consciousness enough to take back control. Yeah.
Speaking of dissociative disorder, let's talk about Rose. And you mentioned this earlier. And in the scene where she is talking to Rod and emoting with her voice, but her face is just deadpan. So, like, with our knowledge of socio versus psycho versus dissociative,
a Billy or a Stu,
a Billy or a Stu, like what, or dissociative, which you've also mentioned a lot too for some people. Where do you think she might fall the most?
So I think that Rose, here's my hot take. Rose is a Billy and her brother Jeremy is Stu.
Stu. Okay, yes. That tracks.
Because he's just like messy and like just following. Oh God, why do you got to bring beef stew into this? Her brother is like messy and like clearly doesn't have his shit together and is like trying to show off and you know, are we to assume like he's like his dad's apprentice at the end? Are we to assume that he is going to take over this family business? Or I mean, Rose is like has way more control, like an infinite, a wild amount of control. And like, I mean, if anything, I feel like she should be the one to take over this horrible family business.
Yes.
I mean, the family business shouldn't exist, the order of the coagula.
Yes.
But yeah.
She has herself more together to be able to.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're saying that
And she's already searching for her next victim,
Oh,
which I didn't realize this, but did you know that the the NCAA prospect picture that they show is apparently Keegan-Michael Key?
No way.
I need to like go back. I was looking at the Wikipedia and I was like, he's in this movie? And I think I need to go back. I need a paused screenshot at the computer, and I need some zooming in to see what is going on here.
If it looks like him, that would be absolutely hilarious if that is him. That's wild. Okay, I have one more question, and it's when Chris is trying to escape, and then the mom finds him, and he knocks over the cup, and then she takes like the knife and stabs his hand. No response, no nothing from Chris. My question is, is it because of all of his trauma or his adrenaline of trying to leave that he has like no pain reaction to that? Like, what are your thoughts on that? Because it just seemed so wild that there was no pain response, but he could just be like, I'm trying to get out of here, so whatever.
No, I mean, I definitely think that you are right. I imagine that like there's just so much, like fight or flight, like he just needs to survive, and our bodies in that moment are they'll do whatever they can so that we survive the threat. Even though he was like injured in that moment, it still wasn't enough to, like get in the way of him doing what he needed to do. It was him or her. And he, adrenaline won out for him.
Yep. Truly, because every time I think of that, and it's like, that is painful. Like it is gone through your hand and you're just like, oh, nope, I'm still fighting this off. So I guess, it is like you said, just kind of your fight and flight, and your body is saying, okay, no, we got to keep it moving. This question is for the both of you. Random human behavior question.
Who, me?
Yes. 5 months of dating and he meets the parents. Is that too soon? How do you feel about that? When did y'all meet each other's parents?
I don't think that's too soon, depending on the relationship.
Okay. Jamie is looking like,
yeah, well, I was trying to actually think, like, I don't remember. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, I think it depends on the context of the relationship. I know I default to that all the time, but like I really truly it's so hard to like say that all situations apply to everyone. But
yes.
Yeah. I mean, I know I met most of Brian's like besties in like the second month of us dating for his birthday. I mean, that seems
fair. Yes, yeah, group events.
Okay. But, I was like, maybe that's too soon. I don't know.
No, to meet friends, I think that's not too soon. I don't know, just 5 months.
He met my best friend on the second date, so I guess
yes.
I remember the story.
Not in a group scenario.
Just Jamie, our best friend, and Brian getting grilled.
Yep, good times, getting pizza, having a good time.
Yes. And my second question is: would you let somebody hypnotize you in any capacity? Yes or no?
I mean, oh gosh, we've seen so many movies where there's just like hypnosis is not doing good things for these people. But I don't know. I'm not totally closed off to it. I'm curious about like the efficacy for, the anxiety that I do have. So I'm not ruling it out yet. I would maybe consider trying it.
Okay. even if it was just a fun, like you were in a magic show or something. And
that I would not do. That I am strongly opposed to. I will not be made a fool in front of other people by barking like a dog. I mean, I guess, bark like a dog with my own dog, but like, I don't want that. That's too much for me.
Yes.
Yeah, not for me.
Sure. Brian, would you get hypnotized?
Yeah, probably. I don't know. I've like seen it happen at magic shows and stuff like that. I don't think I would be opposed to it. If I got called on stage, I'd like go along with it or whatever it is. I would have to do more research from like, can it help me, quit biting my nails or something like that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
For me to like pay money to use it as some sort of a like problem solve. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So that kind of thing.
Okay, well, listeners, we need to get a hypnosis thing happening. So if you know people, send them our way. We'll all try it out. Brian, did you have any questions in the brains section?
No, I think I'm good. I think you covered a lot of what I was thinking. I do want to ask you something in terms of this movie. Yes. I mentioned it at the beginning before we get into our final segments. When I watched this movie, I mentioned that you and I will probably watch this movie significantly differently. When I watch this movie, I obviously am empathizing with the main character, Chris. I'm understanding what he's going through from a like narrative perspective. As somebody who is obviously, I mean, not obviously, I'll say it, like someone who is not racist. Watching these white people, understanding that like this is a part of the group that I would be associated with in the context of this movie, just based on my skin color. I'm definitely watching this, and there's a part of me. We talked about it during Candyman, where there's like the reboot, where there's a part of you, or the what do they call it in the new Scream movie? A requel.
Yes.
There's a part of me that obviously watches this with a lot of white guilt and like being angry that this is the situation that he's in. There's a part of me watching this that like truly doesn't understand. I am not triggered. Maybe I am not triggered in the same ways that like that somebody else watching this movie might be, especially when he's at the auction being asked these questions. And like he's only being seen for the color of his skin and like the build of his body. So like my viewing experience of this, because I don't have those same life experiences, lived in experiences as somebody else. Like I guess like from someone who watched it that way, who understands the pieces, the trigger moments, like seeing the cop lights, all of this, but doesn't have the same visceral reactions because in the moment, like if a cop pulled me over, I still know I'm white. Like it's like, but like that's just that's my life. That's how but I recognize what other people go through. When you watch this, like, can you, if you can at all, can you explain a little bit of how you react, empathize, understand certain situations in that like I just can't fathom myself?
Yeah, it's a very nuanced question, but a great question, because like I said, watching it with other Black people and having the reactions, that we did. And as someone who does date outside of her race and has experienced guys who don't even want to tell their parents that we're dating, because if you just say my name, you give it away of what skin color I am.
Yeah.
It's, you watch it and you just say, oh yeah, that's normal. As opposed to when you get into the scene where the people are asking all of those questions and people might feel shocked of how blatant those questions are, because you look at it and you say, oh my gosh, why would they even ask about that in any circumstances? We're in a horror movie watching this, but in any circumstance, if someone just kind of asks you like, how does it feel being Black, or what is your experience as a minority, or is Black better, like Black is in style, or what I hate when people try to relate to you by bringing up things in your specific culture. Like when the guy was talking about golfing, and he could have talked about any other pro golfer, but he brings up Tiger Woods because he is a black man. Like those, you see those things, and somebody might be like, oh my God, like that's so blatant, and it shows their racism. Like that's crazy that they would just flat out say that. But watching it for me, it's just like, oh yeah, that's a normal Tuesday. You know, someone tries to relate to me in a way that makes it seem like they are you know, aware of my culture, when it's like, no, just be yourself. Like you don't have to come to me and try to relate to me with a black experience. You know, it's like it won't be the same because we're all different. So like, just come as you are. That's a side note, so box that I won't stay on. But as far as just watching it, like, yeah, it's nothing about it is shocking. And like I said before, I'm not watching it saying, oh my God, why would he make those decisions? It's like, no, these seem very practical, how you would react if you were in a relationship, if you love someone, if they want you to meet their family. Like, and it's and the thing that I loved was the day after they got there, and she was brushing her teeth, and she's like, oh, and my dad was talking about my man this, and how is that, you know, why are they saying that? And my mom was being so rude to Georgina, and he's just sitting there at the computer like, yep, because he's like, this is what I told you and warned you about, but you didn't listen to me. But, you know, that is kind of our lived experiences of, we say these things and no one either takes it seriously or listens. And so we just kind of sit back and we're like, yeah. So when the thing happens, you're like, yeah, I told you so. this was going to happen. So yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no. I was just vocally reacting to what you were saying.
Yeah. So yeah. It's a different experience because it's a lived experience. And so things aren't as shocking. You just are watching it, and it's just great that he got it right. Like it's all accurate things. So you're watching it and you're saying, yep, that's exactly how that goes down. Yep, that's exactly what I would do in that situation. Like this is not new to me. I'm happy that I'm seeing this kind of lens on screen, because that is what our lived experience is.
So here's a question for both of you. Why is that? Why is everyone black and everyone white except for the one Japanese man? That seems deliberate.
Yes, and someone made a video about that as well.
Yeah, you watched a video on it. That's why I asked the questions.
And someone just kind of explained it in a way of, because the question is what's important. As an Asian person who is also a minority in America, or in American culture in America, they're saying, how was your experience as a black minority? Do you think that it's a good experience or not good experience? Because he's comparing minorities. What would be better to be? If you had to be a minority, which one would you want to be? Which one would be more fruitful? And so I think that he was just trying, the point of the Asian man being there was trying to see like how can he move about in the world if he can't be a white man? Like, would his lived experience be better if he
interesting.
was? Is my take in what the film, the video was saying. But yeah,
no, that's interesting, because also I saw it as like, he's a Japanese businessman, and it also didn't matter that they were all white. It mattered they were all not black, and he has the money, and it's not necessarily for them, even though it is for them, it's not about like that they're all white looking at these black bodies. It's about like they're all wealthy non-black people, majority of being white, trying, to find these black bodies. I would it be fascinating? I think it would have undercut what the movie was trying to say, but it would have been fascinating if there was a very wealthy black man, like almost trying to implant himself into a younger black body. You know, like I don't think that's a great idea because that would have probably undercut the situation
For sure.
and it would have added a different like line of thought, especially for him trying to as he's trying to connect to all the black people in that sequence. That was fascinating. Cool.
Yeah.
Those are my questions. Thank you.
Fantastic. Should we Rotten Tomatoes the things?
Yes.
Let's do it.
It's the Rotten Tomatoes game.
Okay. Rotten Tomatoes. We are trying to figure out, well, you're guessing what the Rotten Tomatoes score, I can't speak, of this movie. Nikisha, let's pass it off to you.
I'm going to guess 96.
Jamie?
I was going to say 98.
It's a 98.
Oh! Good job. Jamie wins.
All right. Funny, scary, and thought-provoking, Get Out seamlessly weaves its trenchant? Is that the word? TrenchanT?
Trenchant.
I've never heard that word before. What does that mean?
Me either.
Vigorous or incisive in expression or style.
Oh, I don't know that word. I'm going to read the sentence again.
Like cutting, pointed, piercing, penetrating, sharp, keen are all synonyms.
Cool. All right. Funny, scary, and thought-provoking, Get Out seamlessly weaves its trenchant social critiques into a brilliantly effective and entertaining horror comedy thrill ride.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. I wonder how many of these I'm not going to do it now because like this would just take too much time, but I wonder how many of these critics are minorities or black versus white. There are 399 critics. It seems as though they put the black critics' pictures at the top of these lists so that you like scroll down and you see them first. But I'd have to do a little bit. I'm making an assumption based on just one scroll, so I'd have to look. However, because we talked about that with Candyman, maybe we talked about that with some other movies that we thought were low rated. But it may not have been diverse like critics actually like seeing the movie. Anyway, that's probably a conversation to have during this episode, but we're closing it out now. Should we do the 4 S's?
Yes.
Yeses.
Skull, scares, shakes, and suggestions. The Talking Horrors 4 S's.
All right. The 4 S's are skulls, scares, shakes, and suggestions. We are going to go around. Let's do it the way we did it on. Stranger Things, where we all
crossover.
Yeah, where we all do like our own at the same time. Save suggestions for the end. Don't do suggestions just yet. But Jamie, skulls 1 through 10, scares 1 through 10, shakes 1 through 10. What's your skulls, your mental health, human behavior rating for this movie?
I'm gonna give this an 8.5. It's actually scratch that. I'm gonna give it a 9. I'm just gonna give it a 9. This movie is just so accurate. I feel like when it comes to like, you know, how we repress trauma. How we like just social interactions or weird ones, I guess too.
Yes.
Just the social commentary of it all. It's excellent. I love this. All of this. Scares. I'm going to give this like I'm going to give it a 5 because I don't think that there's any jump scares. But this movie is like very tense and unsettling. Like the unsettling nature builds and builds, and like when he goes into the sunken place both times, like I just get so anxious and like really caught up in that. So that is that. Shakes. I mean, I don't know, a 10. Like I haven't forgot about this movie. I'm never going to forget about this movie. I'm looking forward to like more movies that meet at this level. Like other things now will forever be compared to Get Out. Like the inception of this, just now it's like everything else gets put up against it and evaluated against it. Like you can never forget this movie and the impact that it's had on the horror genre as a whole. Like it immediately shot Jordan Peele up to like top tier horror director. I mean, there's no getting around it. And that's that.
Do we think that Jordan Peele is the most, I don't know, what the like important horror director today? Do like how like the not necessarily the best because that's subjective, obviously, but like important. Like he's probably one of them, right?
I mean, he's important because he's putting out in like important social commentary work. So
and producing other work that has similar messages. Like I think it's not only what he himself is creating, but like the other projects that he is like putting his name on as a way to like continue social commentary. I think that speaks to like he is an incredibly influential horror director presence.
Yeah, I would also argue that his movies are events, and they get people into the movie theater. Whether people are excited. Nope is on a top 10 most anticipated lists of not just horror like people. It's on just like top 10 most anticipated of the year, including like Marvel movies and Avatar and DC. Like that's very impressive, especially from the horror genre.
To add to that, like him being a black man, like the black people will come out and support, especially the ones who do not watch horror movies at all, but because it's him, they will put their butts in the seats to support him.
Sure, totally, cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Nikisha, why don't you go? What are your three? Your skulls.
So they're just going to be 10s across the board. I just can't say enough things about good things about this movie. And even though it isn't necessarily scary, I didn't watch it. There weren't any jump scares. I'm still going to give it a 10 just because of how unsettling it was and the nature of the movie and watching it as a black person. So yeah, everything is going to be a 10 for me. Easy peasy.
Sure. I'm going to go 10 on skulls. I'm on scares. I'm probably going to go a 6 or a 7 maybe. Just because like it's scary in a different way. I don't know. I'm probably going to go 7. Yeah. Like I'm in between the two of you. And then this is a 10 for me for shakes, no question. Without a doubt. Fantastic. Okay. I'm trying to think of any other. Is this our first 10s across the board? Meaning like shakes. No, Hereditary was 10. So this joins as 10s across the board. Hereditary. Yeah, Hereditary and Get Out are the only two movies that the three of us has rated 10s across the board. Like for shakes specifically. We've all had other 10 movies. Like for instance, Psycho is a 10 for me and a 9 and an 8 for you two. Midnight Mass was a 10 for me and a 9 and a 7 for you two. I'm trying to, maybe I'm the only person who has I mean, 10. His House was a 10 for me, a 7 and 8 for you. I'm very liberal with I give 10s away for free. That's fascinating. Anyway, let's go to suggestions. What are your suggestions for this movie? And if we can help it, maybe not say us or nope.
For sure. For me, because I only have one, and I'm sure Jamie has more than me, is if you want to see Allison Williams again, watch The Perfection. because I think that's another great movie of hers. So that's all I have.
Cool. Jamie.
I only have one just because I feel like this is a really perfect one. Skeleton Key.
Oh.
And that's all I'm going to say. If you haven't seen it and you liked Get Out, you should definitely watch Skeleton Key.
We should do Skeleton Key. That's a really good one for this podcast. I love that movie.
It's spooky.
I halfway watched it, and I feel like I know what the twist is, but I would definitely love to revisit that for sure.
I was on the movie theaters. I definitely have the ticket stub for that one.
Nice.
You don't have to show
Okay,
us.
thank you. I'm going. I talked about it a lot during this episode. I'm going with Ready or Not.
Nice. Not Monster Squad.
Not Monster Squad. We should do Monster Squad for Halloween. I'm gonna do it. We're gonna do a Halloween Monster Squad episode. Yeah. So Ready or Not, the familial aspect. There's a lot of similarities in it in here there. Obviously not the racism and it's the social commentary in that way, but there is other kind of there's other types of social commentary in that. But I'll go with that. Cool.
Fantastic. Well, I think that concludes our episode of Get Out. We basically uncovered everything in this wonderful film with a capital F. And wow, I just lost my brain for 2 seconds. So you can
Nikisha, be careful.
Ooh. Oh my god. Somebody help. You can follow us on all of the Instagram, Twitter, TikTok at Talk Horror Pod, POD. And Brian, where can they listen to us?
Yeah, of course. You can find us wherever you get podcasts. Those places are Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, wherever you go and put your podcast in your ears. That is where you can find us. So subscribe to us there. Rate and review us. 5 stars, please.
And thank you.
Thank you.
I think you should play that Run Rabbit song as our...
Oh, that 1930s Run Rabbit song?
Yes.
1930s ditty.
1930s song. Thanks,
Okay.
guys.
Thank you.
Bang, bang,